All right, looks like we are live. Welcome to One Day Today. Thank you all so much for joining us on our first episode. This has been a long time coming, and I'm really grateful and appreciative of all the guests who are joining us today, as well as for you for watching and joining in with us. This all began for me a long time ago, and I'll start with sharing a little bit of my story. When I grew up, I didn't really feel like I fit in. I didn't really feel like I belonged. I felt different. Aside from being ethnically different, being Jewish, Black, Italian kid who was overweight, and I was picked on for being fat. I really didn't feel like I was enough. I didn't feel like I belonged, and I kind of carried that a lot of my life without even realizing it. And I was always called to music. My family always raised me folk songs, music of old American icons like Woody Guthrie and Pete Seeger, Leadbelly, and Bob Dylan, and all the generations of amazing folk singers who are just singing songs about people. And that's always kind of been ingrained in the background for me. And really discovering through my journey, when I went to college, I kind of feel like I came to a head in my life where I kind of was realizing something wasn't right. Something didn't feel like something was missing in my life, in who I saw myself as. And that world was lonely. It was scary. It was uncertain. It was pretty. I felt powerless. And at a certain point, music became a medium, something that was just naturally a remedy for me, naturally something that I could express myself regardless of what was going on the outside. I could kind of emote and express on the inside. And it must have been around my freshman year of college that I read this poem by Bob Dylan called Last Thoughts on Woody Guthrie. And when I read it, it really rocked my world. It really pointed me to something way bigger than I even realized. It made me really not only look inward, but it made me see something. There was something that I was missing up to that point. There was something bigger than me that was a part of me, but I didn't know how to articulate it. And it was when I read that poem, I felt I didn't even Bob Dylan's words about Woody Guthrie, about the story of this man, this American legend and icon. It moved me because I realized in my peripheral, the way I saw the world, I wasn't seeing it all, because I was seeing it through the lens of my story, through the lens of my fears and what I was afraid of. And when I really saw that, when I read that poem, it really opened up a whole new world for me. And I didn't even, it opened up a whole new realm of possibility, things that I didn't see before. And I didn't even know words could make me feel that way. And from that place, I really realized I don't know everything. I don't know everything that got me here to this point. I don't even know. I don't want to hold on to those stories. And when I saw what Dylan was talking about, and when I reminisced and sang songs with my family, with my grandparents, with my parents, with my extended family, the songs of America's past, I saw something that I didn't see before when I was growing up, when I was so afraid and trying to just survive and be enough and just look good, not look bad, just in the hope that people would approve of me, the hope that people would see me as valuable. And when I saw what was possible with music and with art and with these people's stories, it really opened up a whole new world, and that made me open to seeing who I really was. I'd like to share a poem with you real quick first. Sorry, it's not a poem. This is just a writing of Woody Guthrie. just to give you a little essence of what moved me. He said, I hate a song that makes you think that you're no good. I hate a song that makes you think that you're just born to lose, bound to lose, no good to nobody, no good for nothing, because you're too old or too young or too fat or too slim, too ugly or too this or too that. Songs that run you down or poke fun at you on account of your bad luck or hard traveling. I'm out to fight those songs to my very last breath of air and my last drop of blood. I'm out to sing songs that will prove to you that this is your world, and that if it has you hit pretty hard and knock you for a dozen loops, no matter what color, what size you are, how you were built, I'm out to sing the songs that make you take pride in yourself and in your work. And the songs that I sing are made up, for the most part, by all sorts of folks just like you. And when I really saw what Woody was pointing to, was something that I was missing all along, was something that Bob Dylan was pointing to, and just someone that is so called to receive and to share music. It really opened up a whole new world. And and what's possible now, seeing I have something to contribute. I'm not what other people think of me. I'm not my fears. What I'm committed to is a world where my children who aren't even born yet can play and dance and create with people of every color and every creed. And what's possible when we all show up to who we truly are, when we are willing to see past our fears, see past our struggles. And when we face our fears, when we go beyond them, we transcend them, that's what creates something much more beautiful, because we see who we really are. And I saw from Woody, from Bob Dylan, I saw that not only do I belong, but you belong. You have something unique. You have a unique gift, talent, passion, genius, something that nobody else has, and it can contribute to us all. And I want to ask the questions like, what's possible when you and I show up together, when we contribute our own unique gifts, when we contribute our own unique talents to something greater than ourselves? What's possible? What diseases could be cured? What scientific discoveries could we make? What spiritual collaborations could happen? What food recipes, what musical and artistic masterpieces could we create? And when I sat in that experience, it made me realize what's possible, not what will make me look better or will make me survive another day or make me, just avoid the pain of my situation. But I'm really thankful for you all joining in, and I'd like to share a song with you, a song by Woody Guthrie. But this is the first episode, and I want to invite you all, even if you're afraid, like I've been, show up, share with us. Even if you don't know what it is, you have something to contribute that helps us all, especially in this state of the world where there is sorrow, but there's also a lot of beauty. And that's why I started this virtual stage. There's a lot of amazing people up to amazing things in the face of this world experience. And although there's a lot of sorrow and suffering in the world now, I feel it's pointing us to something bigger. We can see now that when we go outside, maybe we can get our neighbors sick, and we can see how connected we are, no matter where we are in the world, no matter what country we're from, what religion we practice, what political affiliations we have, what race, creed, gender, no matter what, there's something bigger. And when we can stand in that's when we create beautiful things. And I'm encouraging you and inviting you to create a world with me that we can all be better off, when we're all better off, when we see when our neighbor is healthy, so are we. And when we see when our neighbor's safe, so are we. And ultimately, this is the golden rule. When our neighbor is well and our communities are well, whether it's our physical space, our psychological space, our emotional space, our spiritual space, when we are aware and we face those toxicities and we actually show up to ourselves, we can create beautiful things with what's possible instead of trying to survive and live in what holds us back from our fears. So I'd like to share with you a song. You probably know it, but this song moved me since I was a little kid, and it's always echoed in the back of my mind throughout my life. But this song always moves and inspires me when I'm feeling like I'm not enough or I don't know what I have to contribute. But this is a song by Woody Guthrie. I think you probably know it. It's called "This Land Is Your Land." Thank you for letting me share that. That song has touched me for my whole life, and I'm happy to share it with you. And I'm so happy you're joining us on this first episode. I'd like to now introduce our first guest, someone who is an inspiration for me. Her name is Kimberly Miner, and she's an incredible soul. And I just want to give you the stage, Kimberly. Kimberly, the stage is yours.
Aw, thank you, Abram. So honored to have you have asked me to come and share this amazing day. This whole movement that you have started is one that is so needed, especially during this time. I think that as we all are forced into this whole coronavirus, it shows us more than ever that the need for us to understand that we're all just all the same, that we all have the same needs, that we all have the same wants, that we all just need to be there to help each other. I think that we see every time that we turn on the TV, people just, doesn't matter what race we are, it doesn't matter what religion we are, it doesn't matter what age we are, that people are just out there helping people. And the words that I tend to aspire to, that I talk about all the time, is perseverance, resiliency, buoyancy, and challenges. And why are those words so important is that they're all part of the human nature, is that we're born into this world with having all of those attributes part of us. The problem is that as we get older, it's the things that are around us within society that tend to start affecting us, that somehow determine that somehow we don't have the same type of resiliency to get through things, that somehow we're less of a person, that we can't achieve goals, or that somehow we have less value, we have less worth. I think of myself as a young girl. I just found myself time after time after time uh, questioning myself as a young youth, determining what I felt what my value was, whether it was how I felt with my group of friends, how I felt within my family, of where I felt my worth was within my family, how I felt in being in the dance world, being a dancer. I was continually comparing myself with all the other girls that were in there. I did not have the so on cold dancer's ballerina body. I was not 6 foot with long legs that started from my chest that went down to the floor. And so, to compensate for that, I found myself with putting myself in developing an eating disorder. And so I developed, this horrible self-worth about myself. And I did horrible things to myself to create this image of feeling that somehow I had more worth to myself. I put myself in a position of feeling that, if I was not pretty enough and skinny enough to be on the cover of a magazine, that meant that I wasn't pretty, that I wasn't skinny. I put those types of criterias on myself because I did that to myself. I allowed things in society to put those types of uh, uh, um, we put those brands on ourselves. We do that as we go through, as we're growing up. And then as we get into adults, that all of a sudden we feel like we can't achieve certain things in life because we have developed these barriers, these blockages that we can't get to certain levels because we have created this block that we can only get so far because society has said in the environment that we've allowed ourselves to be in that we can only get so far in our career. We can't go any further. We can't get outside of, let's say that you grew up in a blue collar family. You don't feel like you can get outside of that environment because that's the only environment that you grew up in. And so, you feel the pressure from your family that it would be unacceptable or that you were trying to achieve too much to, go and get a college education or get a better job than that. And then all of a sudden, you would be looked at as if you were trying to be better than the rest of the family, or that, you were in a, you were a white student in, in an environment that was, predominantly a minority area, or you were a Black or an Asian person that was in a predominantly white area, and then you don't feel like you should fit in there. There's all kinds of branding that goes on that have continually put us in environments that we don't feel like we can be we can have any type of prosperity, that we don't feel like we can be resilient, that we can move ahead. These are things that are put upon us that make it that we can't move ahead. We are bigger than that. We have those things within us that if we dig deep enough, it's there. We can get outside those barriers. I was able to get outside of those barriers. I just had to find it within myself. The thing is that you have to actually want it for yourself. You have to put yourself in an environment that allows for that growth to happen. We are in a spot in time right now that allows for that to happen for the very first time. This one-day movement actually couldn't come at a better time. It allows for this process to happen. It allows us to have a time and place where actually time has stopped, where you can actually have a time where you look at where you have been in your life, where are you now, and where do you want your life to go? What are the things that you have been eating at you that you have chosen to ignore, that you would like to see change? What are those things that you can look at? You are much more resilient than you think you are. You are much more creative than you think you are. You are much more than what it is that is the job, the words, the undervalued, the underworth than you think you are. Write down all those things that you think you're not. Write down all the things that you think you want to achieve. And look at what that looks like. And start thinking of what it is that could look like. What an excellent opportunity for that to manifest itself. You have much more to you. I think of the word buoyancy. And what does buoyancy mean? Buoyancy is the definition by nature is being optimistic, being cheerful. What an excellent opportunity to develop so much buoyancy within you. During this time, it seems like that life is creating so much stress, so much unknown, but actually this is a time of recreation. This is a time where you get to be anything you want to be. I know that there's been time where things have been taken away from us that are the normal everyday of being able to go out to restaurants, of being able to go to work, of your kids going to school, of being activities, of the unknown. But now enough time has gone by where it's been 3-4 weeks now that this is the new norm. And there has been a new norm that has started to take place. The new life day-to-day start to take place. So now the transformation can start to take place. It's kind of like when a caterpillar is born and it starts going, and then what does it do? It goes into a little compact little ball. And then what happens? It stays there for a amount of time that it needs to. And then what happens is that when it's the right time, it opens up, and what happens? It becomes a butterfly, and then it takes off, and it's this beautiful butterfly, and it has its own strength. It's delicate, but it's bright and it's beautiful, and it has its own form, and it takes off in its own direction. And that's what we have the opportunity to do, is that we're each our own little form of our own little ball. And we have that opportunity to then open up into our own little butterfly, each with our own shape, each with our own colors, each with our own shine, to transform into this person that we want to believe we are. Imagine what that flight will look like. Imagine how shine and how bright you can be. Imagine the person that you can become. Imagine what that can look like. Imagine if you start that process now, that when the time comes, when this band lifts, imagine what that can look like. Imagine if we all come together during this time as one. Imagine who we can become all together when that band is lifted. You know, when major catastrophes have happened, we came together as a country, and we get an opportunity to come together again. Imagine if we keep that process going, what we can all become together if we keep that movement going. Imagine what we could do with this one-day movement, with the resiliency, with the recreation, with the transformation, with the buoyancy. Each and every single one of us have that within us. You just have to dig a little deeper. We were born with it. It's still with you. You just have to take that opportunity. It's not, no one ever said that anything that was worth doing came easy. No one ever said it wasn't worth the struggle. But in the end, when you've gone through it and you come out the other side, that caterpillar, when it goes to go into its little ball, nobody ever said that journey was easy, because imagine going through the forest and stuff and going through, it has to worry about getting stomped on, eaten, and everything else through that woods to get to that little ball. But once it gets to that little ball, it still has to worry of what's going to happen while it's in there. It could still get stomped on, crushed, or whatever else in order to manifest itself into that beautiful butterfly. But once it gets to that point and it takes off, just look at the delight of what the beauty it's created. Allow yourself that opportunity to believe in yourself and create that beautiful butterfly and create that shine within yourself. You have it within yourself. So take on this day and let this day be the one day that you believe in yourself and find that resiliency. And with that, I thank you for this amazing opportunity, Abram, and let's take on and create this movement, continue going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kimberly. Thank you for sharing. And it's so true. You know, it's once we see how we're a caterpillar, and once we go in our cocoon, you know, what's on the other side is something beautiful, but sometimes it's scary, but it's like you said, you know, nothing in life comes easy, but it's so beautiful when we see what's possible with, we're not what we think we are. When we see who we are once we're out of that cocoon, that's when, you know, humanity can operate on a very high level of collaboration and connection, and that's what this movement's about. So
that's right.
Thank you. And
Thank
I wanted
you.
to give you an opportunity to share your summit that you're
Absolutely. We thank you so much. Yeah, I have the Envision You, the transformation starts here, where we have an opportunity to help women look and see that as a woman that you have the ability to figure out that as a woman that you matter, that what you do is important, and that just your contributions matter, just who you are. So if you go to envisionusummit.today, you can get all the information. So thank you.
Yep. And we're gonna share that link so people have a chance to check it out. But thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
Kimberly.
Absolutely.
All right. Up next, a dear friend of mine, Matthew Idom, is going to share. And Matthew inspires me. I've known him for less than a year, and I'm so grateful to know him and to have him in my life. And I'm happy to give you all I'm happy to give him a space to share what he's up to, because he's an amazing soul. So without further ado, Matthew, take the stage.
Thank you, Abram. I really appreciate that. And I really appreciate everything you put into this. There's been a lot happening in the world for me. And, it does feel like a rather tumultuous time. And so to have a platform where we can come together and really share ourselves authentically from the heart, to the entire world just feels absolutely amazing to me. To be able to see other people sharing themselves fully, vulnerably from the heart is one way that I have learned to see myself. And so just again, thank you. And thank you, Kimberly, for everything you shared earlier. And that actually feels like a fairly decent jumping off point, because one of the things that I feel like is really worth diving into is the how you got to that point. And I'd love to sit down and talk later, either on another episode here or just separately, about how you got to where you are. And that's where I'd like to start my share. Like, just, yes, like I resonate with both of you in that there were so many moments growing up that I felt like I didn't belong, that I didn't fit in, that I was alienated or weird or not accepted or whatever. And that really got me to a place where I shut down internally. Like, I would not speak up, I would not share, I would not say what was really coming up for me. I'd often just walk away. And that led to this really miserable existence for me. This really deep depression for a long, long time. And it's only been through this incredible journey over the last 10 years, roughly, of my life that I've kind of come back to being able to feel again, being able to love myself again, being able to love others again. And I don't want to take up too much time. I'd like to actually leave a little time for some Q&A after, if it's a possibility. But I'll just start in 2010, because in a lot of ways that's where I felt like my life actually began. 2010, I'm living in Nashville. I'm absolutely miserable. I am at this job that doesn't feel good to me. There's no real meaning there for me. It's just a paycheck. It's just a way to survive. And at the time, I am absolutely convinced that I have to have this job, because if I don't, I won't get money. And at the time, I truly believed that that was the only way I could survive. Having money. And so on a whim, literally on a whim, and with about a week's notice, my best friend and I at the time basically gave up everything in our lives and moved to Hawaii. Like, that's how miserable I was. And I was willing to literally jump ship and leave everything I knew, for a place I'd never been. I didn't really know anything about Hawaii, but it's turned out to be one of the best decisions that ever happened to me. From that point on, everything shifted. And there's one more important thing to note about this, that I moved to Hawaii basically an atheist. Like, I was full on naturalist. There is no God, there is no divine, there is nothing, outside the natural realm. And all of this has a logical explanation. It's the Big Bang Theory. It's blah, 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 blah. And after about 2 years of living on Hawaii and having what I can only describe as magic thrown in my face almost every single day, I kind of had to start questioning that. And that questioning, of course, led to more questioning, and it led to this place of uncertainty. Well, what do I know? Do I actually know anything? And the more I kind of fell down that path, the more I realized that no, I don't know anything, and I can't know anything. And knowing things was the only way I knew how to operate. Like, that was the only way I knew how to make sense of this world, was by understanding this world and having some sort of logical sense to it. And when that was taken away, I didn't know what to fall back onto. And that kind of started the next phase of this journey of self-discovery. And that was when I met a really good friend of mine who I have actually, I live with part-time up in Canada at this little farm, him and his wife and a few other people in this community. But he was the one who introduced me to the concept of the higher self, the intuition. And something that, just a little disclaimer with all this, I don't believe anything, and I'm not asking anyone else to believe anything. There's this saying in statistics, all models are wrong, but some models are useful. The way I choose to look at this is these concepts that I'm about to explain, they're just models. And they may or may not reflect reality, but I find some of them useful in being here, in this body, in this world. And so Bruce, this friend who I met on Kauai, he was the one who introduced me to the concept of the higher self and intuition. And that struck a chord with me. Like, there was something in me that I could feel, and it was a physical sensation at the time. Like, it was literally a feeling in the heart, in here. And so I jumped on board, and I went all in, and ended up going down this path of shamanism and a few other isms, and discovered what I think of now as intuition. And I say that in that specific way because what I think of as intuition doesn't seem to line up with what scientists talk about when they talk about intuition. For me, intuition is this deeper sense of knowing that comes from whatever it is that is bigger than myself. Some people call it God, some people call it love, some people call it the divine, some people call it the universe. I don't have a name for it, and I don't feel like a name is important. It's just that is bigger than me. And the more I learn to check in with that before committing to anything, before taking action, before anything, the easier my life became, the more joyful my life became, the more I stepped out of this depression and into this beautiful, easy, flowing life. And it's not perfect. Something that some really wonderful person whose name I can't remember right now said at one point was, how do you know you still have more work to do? You're still breathing. And I resonate with that. Like I really feel that. So I'm easy on myself when I catch my mind stepping back in and trying to figure things out and trying to choose a direction or choose the next step or make a plan to go forward. And I follow that. Like when I follow that logical fear direction that my mind wants to happen, I start getting more depressed. And then as I realize that's happening, I step back and I kind of check in here again and move back in this direction. And that's really what has led me here today to this. You know, I had no intention of going to Landmark, which is how I met Abram. And my mind didn't even want to go, but my heart said yes. My intuition said yes. And so I went. And again, another wonderful, wonderful, wonderful choice, because here I am. That set up the situation that led me to here. And so I really resonate with everything that's happening with all of this. And Abram and I have spent quite a bit of time just playing with this concept and talking about it and exploring ourselves together. And I just thank you for inviting me here today. I really appreciate it. And I love you guys. And actually, I feel like that's pretty much all for me for today. I'm not sure exactly how this is going to work going forward, but Abram has invited me to come on as a co-host on occasion, and I'm actually exploring an option of having kind of just my own personal different segment where I bring people on and have really deep conversations with them about how they got to where they are and what they are. And so with that, I will turn it back over and thank you again. Aloha.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that Matthew. Really appreciate you, brother, and really resonated with me. And it's I feel a lot of people can relate to, you know, the journey of getting here and, you know, facing ourselves, facing our fear. Yeah, and as Matthew was saying, he's going to be helping with hosting duties as we continue. We've already gotten a lot of submissions, but we're going to be continuing to do these episodes. Right now, just stay watching, and we're going to have another one next week, but we're going to actually add more, probably 2 or 3, up to 4, 5, maybe 5 a week, depending on how many people we get submitting. But thank you so much for sharing, Matthew. I just wanted to ask you, what do you see in this new era, this new age? What do you see is opening up?
Compassion. Like that has been the biggest awe-inspiring thing for me to witness, is the opening of people's hearts and acting from compassion. You know, this, whatever this is, whether this goes back to the not knowing. There's just so much contradicting information being put out as to what is actually happening right now. But whatever it is, like you said earlier, and like Kim had touched on, it does show, to me anyways, the connectedness of all of us. And that loving yourself is loving another, and loving another is loving yourself. And that we are only as protected as the most vulnerable of us. And so seeing people step up to care for those who have been unable to care for themselves has been a beautiful thing for me to witness.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing, Matthew. I appreciate
Thank you for having me.
All right. So that was my dear friend, Matthew Idom. Up next is Crystal Clenney, and Crystal is an amazing soul. She's up to big things, and I'm inspired by her work, and I just want to give her the stage to hear what she has to share. But Crystal, the stage is yours.
I think I'm on now. Hi, everybody. Crystal Clenney here. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen as we talk through the topic that I actually feel like is going to tie all of this together quite well. So let me share that screen. You can see the screen. We got a thumbs up seeing the screen? Okay. Okay, so today I'm going to share with you guys this is going to, give us some structure and tie into everything that Abram is talking about here with this one-day movement that I feel so blessed and so grateful for being a part of. And thank you so much, Abram. You're such a kind, generous-hearted, huge-hearted soul, bringing your movement into the world. And I feel so gracious to be a part of it in this manner as well. So you were asking me to help support something that will benefit us all in the area of like wonder and beauty and possibility, and creating a pathway to integration for people who might need to even understand what that means when big things happen in our lives. And it can go from anything from what Matthew was discussing with a big intuitive awakening event. I specialize in those kinds of integration moments and really helping people get through those moments, or what Kimberly was talking about with regards to, her journey to come into relationship with why she was doing the things to her body and things like that. So whatever anybody is ever faced with regards to integration or bringing all the parts together, that's what we're going to talk to today. So this pathway to integration really has 6 steps, and it was a culmination of many years of experience, direct experience, relating to other people, supporting other people as they were finding their way through this entire pathway, from not knowing whatever just happened to them in their lives to coming all the way around full circle almost to a new level of themselves, to a new self-image, if you will, and a new taste of what integration really means. So just as a foundational element, integration is to end the segregation of and bring into equal membership in society or in an organization, or even, I dare say, into ourselves. And so when we talk about integration, it's taking all these pieces and making sense of them. And that might go against a landmark thing, meaning making, for those that didn't know that. But let's go ahead and talk through it. So step 1, when something happens so big in your life, you kind of come into this like system halt, kind of shock and denial, a little disbelief, confusion, fear, maybe even groundlessness, and you're walking into that unknown space and you don't really have a basis of reference. And so that's the step 1. I'm going to go through all these steps and kind of just like the information that's shared on the screen as we go through, knowing that, of course, there's so much more information that can be said and supported, and we only have a little bit of time together here today. So in the system halt phase, that's right when you're faced with what just happened. In step 2, we're really talking about that inner destruction and loss or lost self-identity, where you don't know which ends up really. You're questioning your belief systems, right? Over here, you're questioning reality. You perhaps are having psychological breakdowns, and the conditional learning that has come upon you from the outside here's the opportunity that can be destroyed. And I believe Abram was talking about that too, like all these things coming on us or at us, but not from us. And so really getting connected with that level as it relates to the moment that you're in right now in life, losing that self-identity, having that inner destruction seems to be, even as a part of the butterfly that Kimberly was talking about, is a process of emergence. It's a process of integration, and to embrace even that level of inner destruction is okay. And it's natural. It's a part of the process, you guys. Step 3 is a hollowing out. It's a detachment. And the way I think about this and how it's occurred for me directly, and again, I've gone through several pretty powerful, like rock your face off kind of experiences in life. And I also, like Matthew called them, really strong intuitive experiences. That this one time I had the experience of like hollowing out, like carving out my entire body with a melon baller, if you will, those things that you can carve fruit out with, and just hollowing out everything that I thought that I knew I was, and completely detaching from any semblance of definition. And by doing this phase of this hollowing out, it allows for complete melting. It allows for overwhelm to happen. It allows for avoidance. It allows for shut down and disbelief to really be abound and completely through you. And so as you come through step 3 in this pathway, you kind of bust into, I think of the next stillness phase as this like membranous place where you launch yourself into, and in this stillness, this darkness, this Bardo place, this you don't even know what ends up kind of place, you're completely lost and completely not found. And all of that is okay. And all of that is wonderful. And talk about beauty and possibility. That's where it births from, you guys. It births from the stillness. It births from letting go of everything that we just talked about, 1, 2, and 3. And in this birthplace, we come through the other side of it. We come into inner construction. We already let the rest go, right? So you let go in order to get into stillness. And then you emerge from that into step 4 with the inner construction, the emergence phase. In this phase, we're saying that you're curious. We're saying you're developing new meaning. You are discovering, you are reinventing what meanings mean to you. You are reinventing yourself and what's possible, and bringing that through and kind of just like collecting all the pieces that are meaningful. And then we go into step 5. And step 5, we're talking about the system reboot. You guys, it's rebooting your phone, it's rebooting your body, it's rebooting your spirit, it's rebooting your computer. We know what reboot means. It's reframing our self-identity. So you come through that, all the little puzzle pieces, and now you're starting to fit them together. Who am I now? And again, this can apply to anything. It can apply to moving to Hawaii. It can apply to having a fear-death experience when you're almost in a car accident, but you made it and you're like, why did I make it? How'd that happen? What was possible? So you're rebooting into this new reframed self-identified place. And in that, you're reorganizing, you're starting to implement, that's taking action. You're having psychological breakthroughs now instead of breakdowns. You're coming into the belief of new possibilities, of things you never even knew, which then takes us to step 6, which is our new self-image, our integration. So as a part of all of steps 1 through 5, step 6, the new self-image integration of you, you're creating new belief systems. You got all the pieces, you started taking action, now you're forming again. Things that are meaningful for you now, that meet you where you're at now. And your trust is being restored. Trust at many levels, you guys. Trust in yourself, trust in others, trust in higher self, God, spirit, the allness, non-duality, whatever you believe in or whatever you have yet to meet, that trust is restored. You come out the other side in this integrated, you grounded. And one of the key aspects here of this integration piece of step 6 is the very last thing, where we're talking about direct learning. So in step 2, we talked about conditional learning. That's the education, the definitions put upon you. And step 6 says, in direct learning, you just went through something and the wisdom that you are has spoken to you, through you, directly. And now you have a pathway of truth, of direct acceptance, direct knowledge from source, or whatever you want to call it, God, source, spirit, the all, call it anything you want. And in this way, we're really talking about, again, just to make sure you guys know the application, it can be anything. It can be losing a job. It can be discovering your eating disorder. It can be, moving halfway across the world and not knowing why, but you feel called to do it. It can be these near-death, fear-death experiences. It can be when you hear a voice, any of the intuitive pathways, which again is one of my areas of specialty, but it can be anything that causes you to stumble and go around the other side and say, whoa, what just happened inside of that? And so my hope here today is that kind of like detailing this out. I wish I had something like this when I was 25, because I went through this awakening process when I was 25 and went back to my Southern home and tried to tell all my 20-something-year-old friends of the pure divinity that entered my body through my eyes like a machine gun awakening and filled me with this purity of spirit that I had no language for. And it took me 5 years to integrate that moment because I didn't have a toolkit. I grew up in the South. Jesus is the healer. Like, we didn't know about shamanism or anything like that. And so it's a critical element for me to share this pathway to all that will listen as a part of my high self calling to touch many and to support others in a mentorship role, in a human role, and to help Abram make one day every day, and to give you guys tools and essential skill sets to be able to make that happen. So it's my pleasure to share this with you. And Abram, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have about that or anybody else. And I just want to say thank you very much for letting me share this pathway to integration. And I hope it's really helpful and blesses many.
Thank you so much, Crystal, for sharing. That was so awesome. And I really admire your ability to structure what I feel most of the world didn't think could be. I'm so impressed.
Thank you.
Because I mean, we all have a different cultural context in which we see and experience and receive the world. And it has nothing to do with what you believe. It's nothing to do with your thoughts or your thoughts of your thoughts. It's all experience. And I didn't even know there was a difference between those two things.
Mm-hmm. Amen to that, yeah.
It's like you and I can have an idea. We could toss the idea back and forth. Like, what do you think of my idea? I have it back and forth. But an experience is something that gets you, where it changes your entire perception of the world. And it's even your function as a human being is different when we have experiences. And it's so beautiful that you've, outlaid a map to that process, because it's universal, no matter where you're from, no matter what religion you practice or don't practice, no matter what, how you identify. It has nothing to do with identity. It is an experience of being human that we all share.
Yes, and self-discovery is such an amazing tool that just like it cements something in your knowing. Self-discovery itself, like when you go through, you touch the hot stove, dad, mom, whoever says, don't touch the stove, it's hot, you're going to get hurt. And you're like, and now you know, right? Like, right. You're not going to do that again. Like, self-discovery is such an important tool.
Right. And it's something, so it's fun. For me, I guess I felt it was counterintuitive. Self-discovery sounds like it's a selfish thing. It's like, I'm going to figure out what I want and what I need to do. And it's like, for me, it's like when I let go of all the stories and all the fears and saw who I was, it's like, that allowed me to see who everybody else was. Mm-hmm. And I want nothing more than for everyone to experience who they are, because that's what we're enriched by. You, every single person on this planet has something to contribute when they discover who they are. And sometimes it takes us years and years and years of suffering, or but it's the experience of diamonds and pearls. Beautiful things are made under pressure.
Yes. And sometimes things can happen in an instant. It's all, the miracles happen in the struggles and the journeys, whatever they are, however they happen, receive them and open up to them and allow. Don't figure it out. Just allow and relax into it. That's what I think.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, Crystal. I'm going to
Thank you very much.
share about what Crystal's up to with Intuitive Human, which is, you just barely brushed the surface of some of the stuff she's up to. And I'm so excited that we had an opportunity to hear you share. So thank you, Crystal.
Thank you.
And thank you all. Thank you, Matthew and Kimberly, and for everybody who's watching this. This is such a amazing experience, and it's been so beneficial for me, just hearing everybody speak, but just, you know, having an opportunity to connect and engage, build community in this time that we're all starting to value, because it's missing, because we're separate. And even though the world is, you know, and the situation of the world is forcing us to be physically separate, that doesn't mean we can't have something much deeper, you know, in the midst of it, and create something much bigger. Because when we see who we really are, we see, like Matthew was saying, we are our neighbor. No matter what you believe, whether you're Christian, you know, Hindu, Muslim, Jewish, it's like every spiritual teacher, even secular teachers, have pointed to the golden rule: loving your neighbor as yourself. Do unto others how you want to be treated. There's a reason for that, because at the end of the day, we are our neighbor. When our neighbor's suffering, so do we. But also when our neighbor's in a space to grow, so are we. And that's why this movement is such a necessary thing, because there's a lot of voices in this current state of the world that'll lead us to believing and being distracted by division and separateness. But that's not the world that we on this episode are committed to. You know, I'm committed to a world that's great for us all, that we are all invoked to something bigger than ourselves, from beauty, from wonder, from joy, from something that is just greater than us all, and what's possible when we all show up in that space. I want to thank you all again for joining in with us. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I love you. I want to invite you to share on the stage. You know, we're only getting started. We're going to continue next Thursday at 4 p.m. Central. We're adding some more dates. So as soon as you click the link, the sign up link, you're gonna get an email, and you're gonna have an opportunity to share just like this. It doesn't matter what you have to say. We want to hear, because we know that you have something to contribute. And I'm grateful for this opportunity, and thank you all. And I just want to wish you all a wonderful rest of your day, a wonderful weekend, but we'll see you next week. Thank you.